Good morning, everyone. It is Friday, July 24th, Erev Shabbos Kodesh, Parshas Devarim, Shabbat Chazon. We'll discuss Shabbat Chazon in a moment, but please, hope everybody has signed up and seen the schedule for Tisha B'Av this coming week. The Tisha B'Av services on Wednesday night and Thursday morning and Thursday afternoon will be indoors in the main sanctuary because it will be difficult to sit outside on the floor on concrete. And also in the afternoon we put on talis and tefillin inside. And but the Eicha and Kinos in the morning and Eicha at night will be streamed on Zoom, so the links are there as well. Again, for those that are not yet ready to come into shul, please make sure you register and sign up for all the minyanim. And please continue to daven for refuah shalema for all those who need. Mordechai ben Elka, Rav Rafal Zev ben Rickel, Noalas Balilach Esther, Gittel Bas Sarah, Rezel Bas Sarah, and again, all those who need our refuahs and yeshuas. And again, we ask you to please continue to contribute and participate in our virtual campaign before we have our live event. It's our largest fundraiser of the year, honoring Barbara and Andy Hutter, original members of our shul, and for all they have done, and thanking Yoni Glad for his 10 years of service. The deadline for the ads is July 31st, but I'm fairly certain that if you send it in afterwards, we'll still take it. But yeah, please make sure we get those in. Again, thank you to everyone that's participated so far. I want to take this opportunity also to wish a very happy birthday to Debbie Kaplan. Debbie Kaplan, Debbie and Neil, the first couple from Eitz Chaim that were married under the Eitz Chaim banner, and Debbie, who just turned 29 today, so Mazel Tov, Debbie. Happy birthday. Hope you have a great Shabbos. And our sponsor today is one of our favorites, our old dearest friend, Etty Siegel. Etty, thank you so much for, even though you're not here in New Jersey, but always being a part of our shul. You always have a home in our shul, and great to see you on the Zoom, on the shiurim, etc., and always being in close contact with everything that's going on here. But today is the yahrzeit for Etty's mother, Rivka Bas Yitzchak. Rivka, I hope I pronounce this correctly, Kilamaher. Again, the neshama should have an aliyah, and again, in the merit of our little Torah study this morning, her neshama should have an aliyah. We should only have smachot in shul, and Etty, we hope you and your whole family are doing well. So this Shabbos takes its name. It has a special name. A few of the year have a special name, but this Shabbos has a special name known as Shabbat Chazon. And the reason why it's called Shabbat Chazon is because of the haftarah. Now, not every week does the haftarah name give itself to the Shabbos. Most people probably couldn't name the haftarah of a given week. But this week we know Shabbat Chazon because it's Chazon Yeshayahu ben Amos. And it's always the Shabbos that's right before Tisha B'Av, and it's always Parshas Devarim, the Torah portion of the week. A few interesting customs take place on Shabbat Chazon, something which puzzles the rabbis and the commentaries for generations, and we find a tremendous difference of opinion on practice as to how one should go about conducting oneself this Shabbos. So our custom, let's say in modern Orthodox circles, the custom is that tonight at Kabbalah Shabbos, when we recite L'Chadodi, I usually daven for the Yomid, we recite the L'Chadodi to the tune of Eli Tzion. Which those who know, if you can make it all the way through the Kinos on Tisha B'Av morning, that's the last Kinah that we recite on Tisha B'Av morning. So already on Friday night, we have this feeling of Tisha B'Av creeping into Shabbos. And then comes Shabbos morning. We read Parshas Devarim, and there's an interesting discrepancy between how we lane during the week and how we lane on Shabbos. During the week, when we lane the first aliyah, we actually end the first aliyah at a certain point. On Shabbos, we end that at a different point, a point earlier, and the reason is very simple, because in the second aliyah in Parshas Devarim, we have the word Eicha appears. And when we lane Eicha, we lane it negron Eicha, with the tune of Eicha that we would do on Tisha B'Av. And since we don't want to start an aliyah on a negative note, on a mourning note, that's why we start the aliyah one pasuk earlier, which we don't do during the week. And then, of course, comes the haftarah, Shabbat Chazon, which is read b'nigun eicha. And I don't know about you, but anytime you hear that tune, It has to sort of tug at your heartstrings, and it makes you already, draws you to the misery of our people. It draws you to the suffering and the loss. Chazon Yeshayu ben Amos Asher, and it goes on and on and on. And we read that except for the final psukim, which we end with the regular haftarah tune. I usually do this haftarah. I've done it on several occasions. I've had 2 children actually where we celebrated their birth on Shabbat Chazon 5 years ago. I'm sure you remember that Shabbos. I'm told it was very nice. And the question then is obvious. Shabbos is Shabbos. Somebody who's in Shiva, Lo Aleinu, puts on regular clothes, doesn't wear the torn clothing, wears regular shoes, goes to shul, davens with everyone else. And we say there's no outward mourning on Shabbos. So how is it possible that we as a community, that we can sing mournful tunes and will bring Eicha? How does Tisha B'Av creep into Shabbos like that? And it's for exactly that reason. That question is why so many, in many yeshivish, Hasidish communities, actually will not follow this custom. And they'll say, no, Shabbos is Shabbos, and we have no mourning on Shabbos. And there are some that certainly will not read Lechadodi. The opinion is even brought in some poskim to sing Lechadodi, not to negron of Eli Tzion, but really to negron Eicha, which is even more mournful. I'll explain in a moment. And there are some that read the haftarah, the gra, the Chazon Ish, that they read the haftarah to the regular haftarah tune, and they didn't change anything special because they said, you know what? Tisha B'Av is Tisha B'Av, Shabbos is Shabbos, and as they say in the classics, never the twain shall meet. So how do we justify this custom? Well, first of all, Lechadodi itself discusses the destruction, Mikdash, Melech, Ir Melucha. We talk about the lost Beis HaMikdash and how we yearn for its rebuilding. And the tune of Eli Tzion is actually, there's an interesting machlokas between the people who are experts in nigunim and liturgy about how this should be sung. Is it a mournful tune or is it a hopeful tune? I like to take the tack that it's a hopeful tune. As a matter of fact, when we recite the kinos on Tisha B'Av, we rise when we say Eli Tzion. And the premise of Eli Tzion is that we talk about a woman who's about to give birth and she's going through the pangs of childbirth. And as difficult as it is, she knows that there's a great end in sight. She knows that there's beauty and there's life about to be reborn. And that's the feeling that we have, that yes, we have all this suffering, but we know the Beis HaMikdash is going to be rebuilt. And the way I see that, Eli Tzion is actually, it's a beautiful tune of hope. Now that explains the Chadodi. But what about Shabbos Chazon? What about Chazon Yeshayu ben Amos? What about singing the negron of Eicha? And I think that if we take the principle of Avelos Dorabim, that yes, when a person is Lo Aleinu in Shiva, your personal mourning does not override Shabbos, does not override Yom Tov. However, if there is public mourning, if there's communal mourning, then even that is so powerful that it has to creep into our Shabbos, has to creep into our Yom Tov. And we only do that one time of the year. And one time of the year, of course, is Tisha B'Av. When Tisha B'Av falls on Shabbos, or when the week of Tisha B'Av is observed on Shabbos, as we will have right now, even though we don't let it happen too much, Shabbos is Shabbos, we could eat meat, we can drink wine, we can even sing Zmiros. But we still have to have it in our minds. We have to understand that we are in a period of communal mourning. And that communal mourning even creeps in just ever so slightly into our Shabbos. Not to detract, God forbid, from the Shabbos, but maybe to enhance our Shabbos and say to ourselves that this Shabbos should be something special. This should be a Shabbos maybe when we focus on unity. Maybe a Shabbos that will focus on positive thoughts. Maybe it's a Shabbos that, like we said last week, will focus on Mika Amcha Yisrael. We'll focus on this coming week, let's say, how can I do something to bring about the redemption? How can I bring it to the fact that Eli Tzion will come true and that we will be rising and rebuilding? That's why we mourn on Shabbos ever so slightly, so that we can maybe prepare for the week ahead, which is a challenging week. Tisha B'Av is always hard. And maybe during this week, we will find ways that we can hopefully bring about the ultimate geula, the ultimate redemption, a time when, in the old days, in the Kinos books they used to have the flimsy paper books. And the reason is because they always had tremendous hope that they would only need them for that year and they wouldn't need them the next year. So this Shabbos, as we have a little bit of mourning communally in our practice, let's think about the week ahead. And let's think about what we as individuals and we as a community can do to bring about the ultimate redemption, that maybe next year there will be no Tisha B'Av, next year there will be no Kinus books, next year we'll have only celebrations. Next year, I think hopefully will be far different than the one that we've been experiencing so far. So I wish you a Shabbat Chazon Shalom. We should have a peaceful Shabbos, and I think more importantly a meaningful Shabbos, one in which we think about what it is that we can do to affect the Klal. Shabbat Shalom.